Hello, I'm Patricia, a 34-year-old who leads a pretty ordinary life, balancing a regular job while raising my son. Romance wasn't a big part of my life until I hit my 30s. That's when, concerned about me being single, my parents introduced me to William. He seemed perfect, deeply committed to his family, which resonated with my values. We married, and it felt like everything was falling into place, a real-life fairy tale. 8 months into our marriage, our lives took a dramatic turn. William called me several times one day, sounding exhausted. When I returned his calls, he broke the news that his father, Paul, had suddenly collapsed at home and was rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, Paul passed away, leaving a void in our lives, especially for William's mother, who was left to cope alone. William stepped up, spending a lot of time with her, taking her out, and even planning trips to help her through her grief. The situation became complicated when I won a trip to the Hawaii through a contest. Instead of seeing it as a chance for us to get away and perhaps heal, William saw an opportunity. He threatened to divorce me unless I allowed him and his mother to go on the trip without me, leveraging the prize to ensure his mother's happiness. His mother seemed quite content with this arrangement, but I was left feeling manipulated and sidelined. Determined not to let them undermine me so easily, I decided to stand up for myself. I wasn't just going to accept their plan without a fight. The situation revealed a side of William that I hadn't anticipated, one that was willing to use emotional blackmail to get what he wanted. This realization was disheartening, but it also steeled my resolve to address the dynamics of our relationship and ensure my own happiness wasn't continually sacrificed. It wasn't that William completely neglected me, but whenever our plans seemed to clash with his commitments to his mother, he invariably chose her side. His typical responses were, "Sorry, Patricia, Mom needs me," or "We planned this with Mom a long time ago." Although I outwardly agreed, inside I was often seething with frustration. Why was it always me who had to bend? Wasn't William's mom being overly demanding? Despite this ongoing issue, William's closeness to his mother was undeniable, and aside from this, our marriage seemed stable. I just assumed that this was the norm for some families. My own little escape became engaging in crossword puzzles that offered prizes. This hobby was especially perfect for times when William was preoccupied with his mom. Occasionally, I'd even win gift cards or meals, which was a nice bonus. Then, one day, I hit the jackpot. I won 2 tickets to the Hawaii. Thrilled, I double and triple checked the win before even thinking about making travel arrangements. Initially, I considered inviting William, but hesitated, knowing his tendency to involve his mom in our travels. After some reflection, I decided the tickets would be a wonderful gift for my parents. On my way home, I stopped by their house to deliver the exciting news. Bursting with excitement, I announced, "Mom, guess what? I won tickets to Hawaii." Her eyes lit up with surprise and joy. "Wow, that's fantastic. You and William must be thrilled," she responded. I paused for a moment, then said, "Actually, I want you and Dad to have them." Mom looked genuinely astonished, yet touched by the gesture, unsure of what to say next. "Are you sure?" my mom asked, her voice tinged with surprise and delight when I told her about the tickets. "Absolutely," I replied. "William travels enough as it is. I want you and Dad to enjoy this opportunity." Mom's face lit up with joy, but I noticed a hint of concern on Dad's face. "What's wrong?" I asked, catching his worried expression. "Well, it's a busy time of year at the company. I'm not sure I can take time off right now," Dad explained, his tone apologetic. "That's unfortunate," I sighed, feeling a mix of disappointment and understanding. Then Dad brightened up with a suggestion. "Why not take Amy instead? It was your prize originally, right? You should go and have some quality time together," he proposed. Mom nodded in agreement, clearly excited by the idea. "That sounds wonderful." Feeling a renewed sense of excitement, I applied for leave the next day, which was quickly approved. I then called the airline to arrange for the tickets to be used by Amy and me. On my way home from work, I stopped at a bookstore and picked up a guidebook for Hawaii. It had been ages since Mom and I had traveled together, and I was genuinely looking forward to it. When I got home expecting the house to be empty, I was surprised to find the lights on. I had assumed William was still out, but instead of his shoes, I saw a familiar pair of women's shoes at the entrance. Puzzled, I walked in to find Kelly emerging from the living room. "Patricia, do you know what time it is?" she scolded as soon as she saw me. "Oh, Kelly, I didn't realize you were here," I replied, taken aback by her presence and tone. "It's not just about me being here. It's late, and William will be back soon," she continued, her voice carrying a note of reproach. "I'm sorry, I'll start on dinner right away," I apologized, rushing towards the kitchen. But Kelly didn't stop there. She launched into a critique of my absence, making it clear she expected more from me in managing the household. Her words stung, but they also reminded me of the ever-tightening boundaries in my life that I was increasingly determined to expand. Kelly questioned my commitment as a daughter-in-law with a heavy sigh, attributing my perceived lapses to my job. According to her, my priorities should place home significantly ahead of work. She often used her spare key to drop in unannounced, especially since she lived close by. Kelly clung to outdated views about the role of a daughter-in-law, expecting me to dedicate myself to serving William and his family without any objections. Her persistent critiques made it increasingly difficult for me to feel any warmth towards her. While I was unpacking groceries and starting to prepare dinner, Kelly's voice cut through the air with sudden urgency. "Wait, what's this, Patricia? Are you planning a trip to Hawaii?" She had stumbled upon the guidebook I had just purchased. "Kelly, why are you rummaging through my things?" I asked, frustration coloring my tone. "That's not the point. Why are you planning to go to Hawaii?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "I won a trip in a contest. I was planning to give it to my mom," I explained, trying to maintain my composure. "I haven't heard anything about this. Why should I?" Kelly snapped back, her demeanor confrontational. Our argument was abruptly cut off by William's arrival. Kelly wasted no time in informing him about her discovery, pointing at me accusingly. "William, listen, Patricia's being thoughtless. Did she do something wrong?" she prodded him. William turned to me, his expression stern. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "I won the trip and wanted to give it to my parents, but since Dad can't go, I thought Mom could go with me," I replied calmly, trying to explain the situation before it escalated further. "Why didn't you discuss this with me first?" William asked, his tone a mix of confusion and irritation. "It's my prize, William," I said, my frustration evident as I faced him. "What's the big deal? You always travel with Kelly." "It's not the same. Mom and I only go on trips within the country. We haven't been abroad in years," William countered, his voice rising. "How could you decide this without talking to me?" He slammed his hand on the table, cutting me off. "You're getting too bold for a daughter-in-law. Mom and I are going, and you're staying home, Mommy," he declared, his choice of words making me wince at their childish tone. "Wait a minute, you've had enough of this trip," I said, trying to maintain my composure. "If you're not happy, let's talk about divorce then." I couldn't believe I was hearing him use the threat of divorce over something like this. It seemed utterly ridiculous. Fuming, I shot back. "I won this trip fair and square. I've already decided to give it to my mom. Can't you see the signs for once? Mom wants to go. When does it end with always putting Kelly first? You never consider how I feel." "I don't care how you feel. Like I said, this trip is for me and Mommy. Stay home and behave," William insisted coldly, his dismissive attitude chilling. My affection for William was quickly diminishing. It was clear I ranked lower than Kelly in his priorities. I couldn't keep dealing with this ridiculous dynamic. I calmly told William, "Fine, do what you want and enjoy your trip. You should have listened in the first place." "Do what you want. William replied dismissively, a far cry from the caring person I once knew. Meanwhile, Kelly looked smug and victorious, reveling in the turn of events. Deciding I needed space, I resolved to leave the house while they were away on their trip. The distance would give me time to think and perhaps figure out a way forward from this deepening rift. I decided to let William and Kelly go ahead with the vacation plans. The next day, I called the airline to transfer the tickets to William and his mom. However, the conversation took an unexpected turn. The airline representative sounded concerned as they informed me, "I'm sorry, but once the participants are confirmed, we can't change them." "Is that so?" I asked, a wave of disappointment washing over me. "Yes, and this ticket requires the actual winner to be one of the travelers. So, if it's your husband and mother-in-law, the ticket won't be valid," the operator explained. "So if I don't go, the ticket is useless?" I clarified, seeking confirmation on the restriction. "Exactly. Please check the documents we sent you. They mention this condition," they advised. After reviewing the documents, it became clear that only the winner, which was me, could use the ticket, and it couldn't be transferred. I decided against telling William and Kelly immediately and instead made plans for them to travel at their own expense if they chose to do so. That evening, after returning from work, I casually brought up the topic of the Hawaii trip to gauge William's thoughts. "Hey, how about that trip?" I initiated. "Yeah, did you talk to the airline? Are Mommy and I all set to go?" William asked eagerly, his anticipation evident. "I did call them," I said, handing over the winning documents along with the tickets. "Here are the documents and the tickets." "I only need the tickets. I won't bother reading the documents," William replied dismissively. "But there might be important details in there, especially since it's an international trip," I suggested, hinting at the necessity of understanding the ticket conditions. "I don't think I need to. Mommy and I are just excited about the trip." William brushed off my suggestion, his focus solely on the upcoming vacation. As William skimmed over the necessity of reading the fine print, I felt a mix of frustration and resignation. It was clear that the details, which were crucial to the trip's feasibility, were being overlooked in the rush of excitement. With William's dismissive attitude towards the details of our travel documents, I could only hope he would eventually pay attention to the information they contained. "And I have got it covered. We're efficient, unlike you," he retorted dismissively. "Fine, whatever. I'll leave them here just in case," I replied, placing the documents on the table, knowing well that William might overlook the vital details they held. As expected, on the day of their trip, after making sure William had left, I packed my bags and headed to my parents' house for a quiet stay. While unpacking, the anticipated call from William came through. As soon as I picked up, he burst out, "Hey, what's going on? They're saying the ticket can't be used." "That's right. If the winner doesn't go, the ticket is invalid," I explained calmly, trying to keep the conversation as neutral as possible. "What? Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" William demanded, his voice a mixture of confusion and frustration. "I did tell you. Remember, I mentioned it might be a good idea to read the instructions," I reminded him, hoping he'd recall our earlier conversation. "You mean it was written in those documents you gave me?" William asked, his frustration evident. "Exactly. It's your fault for not reading. This is ridiculous," I replied, maintaining my composure despite his growing agitation. "So how are we supposed to get to Hawaii?" William asked, his tone getting more agitated by the minute. "Well, the operator did mention that if the winner doesn't go, you'd have to pay the full price," I replied matter-of-factly. Caught off guard by the situation, William sounded frantic, and I could hear Kelly's voice in the background, signaling their shared distress. "William, what did Patricia say?" Kelly demanded. "Mommy, if Patricia doesn't go, we have to pay for the trip," William started to explain, his voice tinged with disbelief before handing the phone to Kelly. "Let me talk to her," she insisted, ready to take over the conversation, presumably to find a way out of their predicament. "I can't deal with this anymore," Kelly demanded sharply. I decided to let them sort it out themselves and hung up without another word. It wasn't long before William called back. "Hello?" I answered, bracing myself for more drama. "What is it now? I'm busy," I said coldly, not in the mood for further complications. "It's not what is it," William sounded flustered. "I tried to buy the tickets, but the credit card isn't working," he explained. "Huh, I don't know anything about your card," I replied, genuinely puzzled. "It's not mine, it's your card," William clarified. "Oh, so you're saying you used my card without my permission?" I accused, my tone icy. "I just need to fix it now. When I checked my wallet this morning, my card was missing. I had a hunch and immediately froze it," I said, realizing why he was having issues. "I knew you stole it," William retorted angrily. "Are you kidding me? I was planning to shop with that card abroad. You're always messing things up," I fired back, my frustration mounting. "You freaking witch," William snapped, his voice harsh, showing no remorse for taking the trip or using my card without permission. Fed up with his selfish behavior, I coldly rebuked him. "A jerk. Who were you calling a witch after mocking others all the time? You should just go to hell," I exclaimed, my patience completely worn thin. "What? Who are you talking to like that?" William asked, sounding offended and taken aback. "Who do you think? Calling out for mommy is honestly creepy," I retorted, highlighting the oddness of his dependency. This entire situation had escalated beyond simple travel plans into a revealing insight into deeper issues in our relationship. If you love your mom so much, maybe you two should just stay together. I can't handle being married to a mama's boy. There's no value for us in staying together, I declared, my voice heavy with exasperation. "Hey, calm down. If you keep this up, we'll end up getting a divorce," William threatened, his tone sharp. "Fine by me. I was thinking the same thing," I retorted, my mind made up. "I've left the house and don't plan to come back. Enjoy your time abroad with your beloved mommy. Hope you both have a great trip," I added sarcastically before hanging up, feeling a mix of anger and relief. Furious, I ended the calls and immediately blocked William and his mother on all my devices. Then, I followed my dad's advice and went to a law firm to start the process of ending my marriage. When I reviewed our finances to divide our assets, I discovered our joint account was empty. William had withdrawn money multiple times, coinciding with his trips with his mom. It was clear he'd used our savings for their travels and had also used my credit card without my permission. I demanded significant compensation from him, which resulted in him owing money and being pursued by creditors. His once indulgent mother, who used to get whatever she wanted, now found herself in a strained relationship with William. They argued every time they met, a stark contrast to their previous closeness. It's ironic how things turned out, considering how spoiled he used to be. Meanwhile, I decided to stay with my parents for a while. The ordeal had caused them to worry, and I wanted to make it up to them by living with them and taking care of them. Being away from the chaos of my marriage, I realized that what's truly important is having a loving, supportive family. Going through this divorce reaffirmed that belief, helping me rediscover what matters.